All right, welcome everyone to this True Restoration live stream. Matthew here, my brother Jude here from Black Cross Studios. Now, first off, if you watch this later and you're thinking, "Oh, I thought that it was going to be, I thought this was going to stream a bit later," I actually think there might have been a miscommunication, and I think potentially this was scheduled for later in the day, but as in on YouTube by accident. But Jude and I are here, and we're not going to be available at the scheduled time. So we're just going to proceed with this live stream, and a lot of people can just watch it later. So Jude, welcome back again to the True Restoration live stream.
No, thank you. I'm happy to be here again. All these months later, even though it just felt like yesterday.
Yeah, it goes fast. Well, last time you came here. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just said it does.
Oh, it does. Yep. Well, last time you came here and you were on the True Restoration Live, you were promoting your movie Land of Conflict, which has since been released. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, look, I'm a bit biased because I'm a bit biased because I'm an actor in it, but it is pretty cool. It's free as well. I thought it was really good. But let's go to you, Jude. What were your thoughts on, I guess, now you've launched it, what have you learned, or how was the response? How was the launch for Land of Conflict?
Well, I guess I can just say that when it launched, I was just like, oh, whoa, I finally, like, it's out. Like, it was definitely, well, because I've never had, and obviously we've always made little movies growing up, but I've never had that before of like a movie that we've, after years of making, is actually out there. So I guess it was a bit surreal. And I was just like, and then I could just see, like, people watching it, and I'm like, whoa. So I guess it was just really surreal, but obviously in a really good way. Um, and yeah, and I guess it was also it was a relief as well, because even if I did notice things that were not quite perfect, it's like it's too late now. Like, it's out. That's what I have to be satisfied with. Whereas before it's released, it's really easy to get really perfectionist and picky, and then it takes, but once it's released, it's just like, okay, well, that's it, all done now. And so I guess that way I personally could also just watch it from an audience perspective, and that was when I.
And when you did watch it from that audience perspective, what was that like?
It was well, it was much more enjoyable than when I was watching it from the editing perspective. Not more enjoyable. I enjoy editing, but more so just I actually was like, this actually kind of feels like a movie. And it was very very cool to feel like that. I could feel like my audience. So yeah, it was definitely very very good. That feeling, and also just like, oh, this is our movie. Like, there was a lot going on. Especially when we were watching it, I had all my most of my actors with me, and I could hear the little not hear, but I can imagine the feelings they get when their characters coming up doing their like amazing parts, and they're like, oh, here it is. So it was definitely enjoyable.
That's cool. When you were watching it, did you pick up on anything, even positive or negative, that kind of you wouldn't have picked up on when you were in production and editing mode?
Well, just how it all was pieced together. Because when you edit it, you're looking at multiple things: the music, the sound effects, this. Whereas when I just sort of stood back, it was just a blend, and I was like, this actually, like, it can't, because when you would know as well because you've done editing, is that when you edit, it's like, it's always when you edit and you watch it, it's always going to be better when you watch it the next day, because you've kind of pulled yourself out of that zone where you're literally focusing on the levels of detail. Whereas, so I was just really surprised. I was surprised actually at just how well it was all blended. Even just like things like, I'd be like, oh, the microphone was playing up in this one and it sounds kind of dodgy. But when I was just watching it, it's like, oh, it's not even that noticeable. Like, also obviously depends on the device it's watched on as well. But yeah, just the overall, and even the acting actually. Well, obviously when you're editing, the acting is much more. You're kind of nitpicking with that. So when I stood back, I actually realized how good all the actors were as well. Well, most of the actors were anyway. And some of them I was
Except our
like,
brother Alexander, who cannot hold back a smile no matter what. That was hilarious.
anyone
But actually, when my wife Christina watched it, and I was like, look at him. He can't hold back the smile. He's acting as someone who's telling his cops, his policemen to go kill someone, and he can't hold back a smile. And Christina's like, oh, I couldn't tell. I was like, are you kidding me? But maybe we're fortunate because we just know him and we can tell that he's really struggling to hold back that smile. Well, when you released it as well, I guess, how did the audience react? What did you have any feedback? Any reactions? What was that like?
Well, we'll just go. I think I just go back a bit to Christmas when it was just announced that it was coming out. The audience, the feedback then was already explosive. So it was a bit more pressuring.
What was it? Do you reckon that made it so explosive? What was it that everyone was getting excited about specifically?
Well, it wasn't just because it was me, because there was a lot of people, as in people who knew me. It was because a lot of people who I've never even heard of were signing up, and saying how they can't wait for it. And I think it's just because the average Catholic, or even just the average decent person today, it's just something like that they could see, even though it's probably like a homemade movie, just like a young Catholic film that young Catholics have made, or not even just young Catholics, but like it's not. I think it's just they pounce on that because they think, oh, this is finally like a relief. Because I think nowadays, things like good effects and all that, all the really high tech good stuff, is kind of potentially being outweighed by the potential not so moral stuff which is going on in potential other bigger productions. So I think even though our movies are not perfect, we don't have all the high tech stuff, I think they're just like, this is something that we can enjoy, and just know it's clean. So I think a lot of people just were like, give it a crack.
I think as well, like, just from, I don't know about everyone else, but from my perspective, I was excited for it because it was going for a good story, and you knew it was going to be clean and all that, but it had action. You knew it was homemade, and you knew it wasn't going to be like a Hollywood standard. Like, that's obvious. Kind of like I was thinking of, War of the Vendée, where they are kid actors, and you just go, cool. I know this isn't going to be a Hollywood production, but at the same time, I still want to watch it because, you can kind of get into the zone. And it was similar to that, where for me personally, it was like, here's a story that's not going to be influenced by perverted Hollywood stuff. And it's focusing on a good story, and it's not trying to just, I noticed it wasn't trying to be too much like, oh, and sometimes you get those, I think they're more Christian-y or Protestant-y productions, and one, it's sort of over the top and it's sort of in your face a bit too much, like it's a bit too overt, but their unique selling proposition, in fact, not just that, but everything is that fact that it's maybe just clean versus that's cool, but why don't we focus on actually making a really good story?
Yeah.
Or a really good product. And that's what I personally found with it. Which I thought
it's easy to.
Do you think, is that what the others, do you reckon that's what some of the audience as well felt? Or
yeah, I reckon that would have been a big part. Also because that kind of story, like, I personally haven't really heard of any other action movies like that are very much like that. So I guess as well, just the uniqueness was appealing, because Land of Conflict, like that's the title. It's like, oh, what's that about? Oh, early Australian history. It's like, oh, what's that? Like, what actually happened in early Australia? It's like, well, watch and see.
I found, and I was, when you had facts at the end of the movie as well, I was learning things, and I'm Australian.
I learned things while I was making it.
like, that was cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty decent. So when you released, we kind of backtracked a little bit. So when we released the movie, I know people were excited for it before it came out. What was the reaction like when people actually got to see it?
Well, obviously right when I released it, I was, because I knew of the potential expectations, I was a bit nervous. But the response was actually very good. You get it was just it was just very good actually. I was very happy. A lot of people were very appreciative. They're like, thank you for this. So I'm like, oh, okay, no worries. Thank you. And they were like, oh, this is so good. And then I'd be talking to people and I'd mention things like, the double up acting, and they're like, yeah, it's a bit confusing, but it's all right. And I'm like, oh, okay. They're willing to excuse that. So obviously, I would say almost a massive percent, like almost 100% positivity of the rate of enjoyment from people. I'm sure they would have, people. I think also as well, because it was a homemade movie, they don't watch it from a high, like they're not watching it like, they're not watching it like some like Lord of the Rings or something, like like, this is a real movie. So they kind of excuse things easier, and they can actually just enjoy it, excusing like the camera quality or whatever. So I think it was very a lot of people were very appreciative. Actually, I'll just say it was almost more appreciative of rather than actual just like, oh, that was good. It was more like, thank you, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And I know as well that when you launched it, you've got all these different products that people can do to support. And I think as well, you even just got people who love what you're doing, and they're literally just saying that. I think you said you've even had some donations. People like, don't give me anything back. Just basically they're saying, I love what you're doing. Make more of these films. So just here's some money to go towards that. And I think that just goes to show that, people must believe in it. So like you mentioned, Land of Conflict, super homemade, pretty freaking good for how homemade it is, really. But still, it's a homemade movie. It's a good homemade movie. It's like on the high end of homemade, but it's still in that category of homemade. What's that's not the long-term goal of Black Cost Studios, though, is it? What could you talk us through what that is?
Well, my long-term goal, which wasn't really there until like halfway through Land of Conflict, because Land of Conflict literally started as a homemade movie with my friends. It was for my friends and family. It wasn't until more recently that it actually started getting good. And then I started realizing, well, with what we have, because it was a learning process and we learned a lot. Like this can actually go far, because we have all the people who can act, more people who want to act in the future. And so I'm like, well, it doesn't. In some ways, it will always kind of be amateur, but I think my mission was kind of thinking like, we can aim towards being more professional, to the point where people can actually watch things like a real movie. And obviously Land of Conflict, you can't do that for various reasons, but I can see what those reasons are. And
can you let the audience know, like, what specifically are the things that, with the right, like, obviously, as you've mentioned, like, anyone who's subscribed to your email list and has looked at it knows that you're really, what you guys can do at Black Cross Studios is limited by how much people support. The more people financially support, the more and better productions you can do. And I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that as well. But let's say, ideal world, you got all the financial support you needed to create, to make the next production, or let's say future productions, the quality that you're aspiring to. What specifically, can you give us an example of some things that you would specifically improve in future productions if you had the support to do it?
Well, definitely equipment. Land of Conflict was filmed on a phone, which died every half an hour, so we had to have battery packs. So efficiently, that put a spanner in the works, and also just quality-wise, I think.
So you could have made 3 movies if you had better equipment with the time.
Well, I could have made 3 movies in 2 years. Yeah, I mean, literally, it was really hard and time-consuming just working with that. So whereas if you had a camera and a good microphone, it's much easier as well as just better quality. So it's kind of like a win-win.
Would you be able as well to get like more actors so that, because like you mentioned, some people I think were saying, "Oh, I got a bit confused by the characters." Is that something that you could go towards so that it can be like easier to follow and one actor per character, or what is that even a potential? Or
I think that's actually the biggest thing, because quality can be excusable, but because especially if the movie is immersing, whereas when you have multiple characters played by fewer actors, it's kind of immersion breaking, and then a lot of the other things can pop a bit more, and it's just like you can't forget, oh, this is a homemade movie. I kind of want to get to the point where a person can watch it and by the end of it realize, oh my god, well, this was a homemade movie, like they're fully immersed. So I would say in Land of Conflict, that the biggest thing I learned was that's not that's something I don't want in future productions. And
that's just based on feedback received. It is like that's the audience telling you, "Hey, loved your movie. It was awesome. I just struggled at times to figure out who was who because I saw the same actors." So you're actually you're basically taking on the feedback and going, "Cool. The audience has identified that this is something that they didn't like as much. So we actually want to make that better for the audience the next time."
Yeah, because realistically, there was very little quality or story like criticism. It was all about if there was criticism, it was mainly it was just that actually there was a like if anyone, I don't think anyone didn't notice it. Like there's no way. I mean, maybe some people did, but like it's definitely a thing because like, oh, hang on, isn't he dead twice? Oh no, he's dead again. That's right. It's like, wait, hang on, he just killed him, but he's the same person. So it's like it's definitely hard to immerse. So that's the biggest thing that I want to make sure. But obviously that's just one thing of many because it's like at the end of the day, if we're gonna make more movies, I'm not just gonna be like, all right, we got more actors now, we're good. It's like there's a lot because I even just efficiently, right? Like Land of Conflict took 4 years. I don't want to have to say people, hey, I'm making another movie, 4 years to go. Like that's like I don't think people would appreciate having to wait 4 years for now movie, or maybe they would. But just on personal level as well, I don't know if I can do that.
You also might run a risk of actors. They might be available, but then they'll move into state or things like that. So there's definitely when you're sort of dealing in this more amateur space, if that makes sense. Like you need to receive so much financial support to consider hiring, let's say, paid actors at least as all your actors. Like that'd be probably you need a ridiculous amount of money, but I don't think you're looking for that because that's potentially a bit, pie in the sky in terms. Yeah, like if people are supporting you financially, you want to be using the money smartly to give them more productions. Before we go, so we are going to talk about the Black Cross mission, or the mission of Black Cross Studios, as the title says. But before I do see that we have some people who are tuned in at the moment. Just a reminder that this is a live stream, which means that you can put questions for Jude or even comments into the live stream chat. Now, if we have time by the end of this, we might get to them. So yeah, I'd say if you do have a question or something, pop it in first because we'll probably go through a queue. Like we'll still choose selectively as you always do, but if you're the first one to say it, so to speak, you've got a better chance of your question being answered. So feel free to put any questions or even comments, even just a word of encouragement if you loved it, or you can just give your feedback. As you can see, Black Cross Studios does implement feedback, so they'll change their productions or improve their future productions based on the feedback that's given to them. So Jude, I just want to preface this here. So up until Land of Conflict, it was all your announcements, everything was about this particular film and how the film was going to be different. It's going to talk about Australia and the Catholicism there from a Catholic perspective, really well and good. Now, one thing that you haven't talked really much about, at least that I've seen, and we're going to talk about next, is the overall mission of Black Cross Studios? Can you talk us through that?
Well, the overall mission of Black Cross Studios basically is, basically, I'm just going to say more movies like Ground of Conflict, and by that I mean more movies that are, well, just I don't know, offer an alternative to some people who are looking for cleaner content as compared to the morally compromised stuff, and that's why I want to aim higher, to you know, better quality.
You have I think you have like an official mission statement, don't you? Like
yeah, well, it's basically, yeah. Well, I mean, basically, it's just to create morally sound, meaningful films that can uplift and offer an alternative to the morally compromised content that basically dominates modern entertainment. So, because it's just, yes, it's hard nowadays to really, watch a movie, put your kids in front of a movie, without some fear, you know what I mean? Like that there's not something in it. So our mission basically is to offer an alternative, right? Because a lot of people, like if we made, like people make saint movies, which are very good, but that's more of an additive, you know what I mean? Like a saint movie is something you add to your movie. It's not going to replace an action movie. Whereas I don't want to just add an additive. I want to offer a substitute, something that people can watch in place rather than just as well.
Is your and I think as well, like your mission isn't just to, like, it's rooted in like the Catholic morals, but I think it'd be really good for the audience to sort of know, are you just going to make Catholic related films? Like what's the how do your stories, I guess, or the stories that you plan to release, how is that going to work?
Well, obviously Land of Conflict is very, very Catholic themed. So even though while we do always have Catholic morals basically rooted in all our films, I personally like to explore universal themes, and particularly unique themes, and so like Land of Conflict is Catholic, but it's also unique. So basically, while rooted in our Catholic morals, our stories feature universal themes, and not just Catholic things, but just like overall courage, history, moral struggles, and basically making them meaningful for anyone actually seeking substance in film. Because a secular person might be like, "Oh, let's watch this film," and they might not even understand if it's like. Whereas it's like if it's good, but clean, that's good. Obviously, I like to do Catholic content as well, like Catholic history, for educational purposes as well. So ultimately, if we only made fully Catholic films, in a way, it's easy for a person to just view that from more of like, oh, this is a holy movie, whereas so it's not an additive. It's an additive, not a substitute. So I would say even in the future we may like I have multiple ideas for films, like multiple, and a lot of them might have nothing to do with the Catholic Church, but they're just clean, and I think that's our goal.
Yeah, I think, and the clean part, but I think I'll just talk about the part because you sort of talked about it. You kind of breezed over it. I think for me, I think the most gripping thing, or the most valuable thing, is the unique stories. Like that's just, you can't put a price on a ripper story, and I think that's where I think Black Cross Studios is doing something different, because it's probably not that hard to just create a subpar story, a very vanilla story, and then just make it clean, and then package it as this is clean.
A very small thing.
Yeah, and then it's like, and
people learn.
Yeah, or even just nothing really new. Like it could just be full of cliche, if that makes sense. There's nothing really there that's like a unique concept. But I like what you guys do is you don't start from let's make just a clean production. You start from how do we make an amazing story, and then we just make sure that when we package it, it's clean.
Yes,
and I think starting from that good story framework is the way to go.
Because I already know what we make is going to be clean. Obviously, there's a difference between clean. There's also just underlying. It's very easy to even just put in like themes that aren't necessarily unclean, but they're just not entirely morally sound. Like even with Land of Conflict, for instance, there was a major a massive theme surrounding a bunch of characters was basically rebelling against the government. And it's very easy to just be like, yes, but basically that is actually wrong. No one has the right, even if the government is corrupt, to rise up against it because they are the lawful authority. And basically there's that one scene where Father Terry, and for those who have seen it, there's that one scene where he basically says that what they are doing is wrong and they are not to be imitated. And that scene wasn't in the original script. I added that later when I kind of found out things. And we were showing a priest our movie, and he said if it wasn't for that scene, this movie would not be passable. And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's good we had that scene. And he's like, because even that, right? It's very underlying, but that is.
It was cool, but also if I know we're sort of going back to the movie, but it was really cool. So that part was also really cool because if you I've watched it probably 2 or 3 times now, and what I thought was done so well was it followed them as they basically started trying to rebel or revolt, whatever the word is, those bush rangers. But you drove the point home not just by that one comment. Like that one comment wasn't enough, but you can actually see, how you see the characters, they actually start deteriorating and getting worn because of, the stress, they're now being, they've killed cops. So now they're like, and they're just going downhill, for lack of a better term. So even before that scene, which was amazing, where, it's when Samuel acting as a character, he's good on him, I say. And then the priest says, I think he says something like poor wayward children. He mentions that it's wrong. But even before then, like if you would just tack that on, that would have been a little bit of like a token. Like it just wouldn't have felt right. But because you see the character progression, like it was, you could like if you were a smart switched on audience, like a viewer, you'd be like, oh, these people who might seem like they're being really cool with all the revolt and the guns and stuff, the impact it's having on them isn't actually a good thing. And then they die at the end and stuff. But it's, it's good that you mentioned it. And even at the very end, what I thought was super interesting was at the very end of the movie where you had the historical facts, you mentioned that the priests, even though accused of riling up the Catholics to revolt or rebel, they actually never supported it. So you had multiple things throughout the film that drove that point home.
I will just interject. They never, at least in this case, I'm sure there would have been priests but in especially this Irish priests, but not in Australia. Not in Australia.
Oh yeah, sorry. In Australia, I gotcha. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and like in the context. So, really good. We nerded out because that was an epic part of the film. We should get back to your mission. So, Black Cross's mission, so is to create morally sound, meaningful films that are uplifting and inspiring people, getting away from morally compromised content that's in the modern entertainment, i.e. Hollywood. And you're making films really from creating really good stories that are also educational and edifying and all that good stuff. And not going to be rooted in Catholic themes, I should say, but you're not just going to stick to Catholic films. It's universal themes like courage, redemption, moral struggle, whatever it is. So really cool. Awesome mission, I think. Now, there is a problem, and I think you call it the crossroads. So I think it's good to be transparent with your audience, I guess. So what I guess is that reality message for your audience and the people who do love what you're doing at Black Cross Studios?
Well, like you said, we are at a crossroads because well, Land of Conflict. It was our first real step. But it's not. We're at a crossroads because it's not a signpost of what's coming. It's only a signpost of what's possible. And basically, whether we continue depends on the support we receive. I mean, that's basically how it is. Every bit of support, whether it's every purchase, every share, every kind of support goes straight into the next story. And so that's why we're at a crossroads. It's either we're going to continue or we're just going to leave it at Land of Conflict. And basically, that's just ultimately up to the support we receive. So if people want more, and if this mission truly helps,
I guess let's just so the audience, I guess, is clear. Like, because like you have received, I know you said you've received some financial support to date, and I mean, being real with the audience here is what you've received, which I'm sure is amazing, and you're very grateful to the people, and that will help. Is that really enough to, I guess, keep going? Like, I guess, or like, what does that actually look like? Like, as if I'm a person who, let's say, everyone's managing their own finances, and everyone's got to balance the budget, so to speak. And what's the real deal for people who have limited money, like we all do, and want to see more from Black Cross Studios? I guess if I'm that kind of person, what's going to happen if I do support? But also, what's going to happen if maybe I and other people don't support? Like, what's actually going to happen here? Can you lay it out for people so they know all the info?
Well, basically, if I'm going to use Land of Conflict basically as an example, and that's basically that even though it took 4 years in the making, even after it was fully made, like even just in the past 6 months, just the time and money that I personally had to put into just getting Land of Conflict out there, just even after it was completely finished, just to get it out there is already like a lot. So it's a lot of time. And so basically that's forgetting money for a minute. It's a lot of time. But I guess I'm just going to say for me, time is money as well. So it's not just like give me the money and I'll do it. It's like, and then I'm putting it in my pocket. It's not that at all. It's basically that I don't want to have to, but ultimately it's basically just, it takes a lot to make a good movie. And even Land of Conflict, even with a lot of its cheaper looking stuff, it's like, it all adds up. It adds up very quickly. And so basically I just can't, even just with the money that I have, right? I just can't make another movie with the time and the money that it takes, and it takes a lot of both. And so basically, I just can't. So ultimately, it's just if it's actually worthwhile to make a movie, that's I think it is worthwhile. But if it's actually not up to me anymore at this point, because I can't just make a movie. I can.
You can't just do it without, unless you're saying that people find
unless I can,
yeah.
Because unless I can see that people want it, and enough to support for it. It's very easy to watch Land of Conflict, enjoy it, and be like, oh, cool. Well, yeah, I'll see more. And I mean, that's great. But I mean, it's ultimately if it's how much they want it, because it's that movie has a lot behind it just to get that one movie, and that's every movie. And especially if we're aiming for better quality movies,
so it kind of sounds like you're receiving support, I guess. But it sounds to me like, from what you're saying, that if you kind of don't get as much, like more support, so to speak, or continued, there's actually a good chance that you'll get to the point where you go, you know what? I'm at a point in life where I've got XYZ. You're getting older. You could be married in the near future. And at the end of the day, you might have to go to a point, hey, look, if it's not there, are we going to be able to continue this? Can I justify this? And it sounds like at this point, because you are getting support, you can still continue. But I guess if people, I guess it's a potential that it could sort of either come to a stop or just not, the quality might not be as good. So let's say people do support, right? And blackcrossstudios.com, I think, is the link. So I'm just going to paste this here. And then I'm going
there are multiple support options in there.
show it. Yeah, so just for the audience, it's on the screen. You can go to blackcrossstudios.com and support to continue the production. So, okay, so I think it's been pretty clear, Jude, that, you know, if people don't support, and like you said, it sounds like as well, you're kind of like, audience, it's up to you. You can decide. So let's say they decide, oh, it's not worth the money, which is fine. Like if people, you know,
it's
totally fine. It's their decision. But let's say people go, oh my gosh, I really want more like this. Like for me personally, I'm like, this is great. I want more of these films. So let's say there's other people in the audience who are like myself.
How much? No.
So let's say there's other people in the audience who do want it, but like anything, they gotta manage their finances as well.
Exactly.
Like I guess. Let's say people do support even just a little bit, I'm guessing, because that can add up. What's going to happen? Like, what do you plan to do with that? I know you said you got your mission here, but what's like the next step? What's like the next film? Can you give the audience, I guess, a bit of?
I have. I'm actually going to say I'm going to give a little insight here, and basically, we have another movie, basically ready to be made. We've even done a few scenes. But basically, it's kind of been halted for the past few months, which is kind of sad for me because actors are growing older. And it's basically because I'm like, no. So basically, that movie is just kind of at a halt. That movie is at a crossroads as well, because I've seen basically how much it took out of me just to get Lounge Conflict out there, and I had to drop production for that movie. So again, that movie was just another homemade movie. And so basically I'm stopping it. I'm like, well, I'm going to stop this now because I'll either just not make it because I don't have time anymore because I'm very busy. I have other goals in my life that I'm working towards. And this is just something that I want to, if I can, incorporate into my goals, but I can't. Prudently, I actually can't do that with the other goals I have in my life. I mean, I'm like courting someone right now, and you know, I'm working towards that. So I don't want to make movies if it's pushing me away from that. So basically, this movie that we started I'm going to stop it, and either it'll fizzle out, or we'll get lots of support, and I can actually resurrect it into something much better. And I'll give an insight on what the movie is. It's like I mentioned earlier about we're not just sticking to Catholic themes. It's historical fiction again. And it's Catholic themed, but I would say it's less of a Catholic movie than it has Catholic themes in it. And it's a medieval movie about, well, it's kind of a tribute, I guess, to our title, which is Black Cross Studios, and that is our, and also it's a bit of a historical reference as to why we call ourselves Black Cross Studios. And basically, it's about the Teutonic Knights, the Teutonic Order, which is something I've always personally, I've never been like a nerd, but I've always been interested in them, and I've just come to see and realize that a lot of people don't actually know much about them. The average person does it. I didn't before. Obviously, I didn't before I figured it out. And I would even say for a lot of my actors who are potential, like I've told about this and I want to get them in the movie, even they're like, whoa, I've never heard of this. So in some way, it's in painting terms, this is a palette for me because I can really bring this movie, which is something I've always wanted to do because I really like the Teutonic Knights and the Teutonic Order. I've always wanted to do is make a movie about them. So in a way, this is kind of like, this is the, I guess you could say Land of Conflict was the intro and the carpet unrolling for what is actually Black Cross Studios, like its essence.
Yeah,
and that's
also just for the audience as well. So I've put a little, it's on the screen. Make the Teutonic Knight movie come to life. So I wanted to say for the audience as well. Like I've acted in some of these scenes, and I have to say, like, and there's like. I would say from the solid, like I know you stopped it, and you said it's come to a halt, and it was probably months ago that we started working on this. This is what it's like making a movie. just so the audience is aware, like if you thought the acting was decent in Land of Conflict, and if you thought the character development and stuff was decent in Land of Conflict, this movie that Jude's been working on has got freaking brilliant scenes and acting and I'm putting myself up there, but like some other actors, like one in particular, just nailed it.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, and honestly, like this, like, and there's probably so much more that you would need to do to bring this to life. But just letting the audience know that.
Oh yeah.
Drew's mentioned he's now courting someone. He's got a way up. Do I continue making this film? Like, I want to see this film come to life because I know how cool it is. Like, I feel like this film, if this film did come to life, I would almost go as far to say, just from what I've seen so far, that, well, in some ways, obviously Land of Conflict has some of that magic, especially that Australian historical sort of magic, and not magic, but you know what I mean. But this one that's coming up has got some really cool things going on.
It's I was basically like Matt's saying, it's what, like you're saying, it's very good, and that's basically because if you like Land of Conflict, you got to remember where we left off. There is where we're going to pick up with the next movie, and so even though, and so yeah, basically like skill wise and everything, but basically we need the support just to bring those skills to life. And I mean, it's been slowly dropping off, and I've kind of been focusing on like other personal things. But if I can see that it's actually people want it, and I can actually prudently do it, and all my actors as well. I mean, they all have lives too. I mean, Matt, you have a life, and you know, it's like, you know, but they obviously
I have a life, but I'm lying to myself. No.
No, you live to act for me. No, but yeah, and so it's just it would be very good if that movie did come out, because for a lot of people, and also unique feature about this movie, there's no double up acting. I have a rule. I had a rule with this movie, and that was if you see someone's face, that's their character. There's allowance when it comes to, like, for instance, if there are soldiers and they're wearing helmets, it doesn't matter if you reuse them. Because no one's going to.
But you said if you see a face, so if their
but
face.
If one of them, if that guy pulls his helmet up and you see his face, that's his character. He's done.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's done.
Oh man. Yeah, I know you seem somewhat detached. You're like, okay, people, it's up to you now. Oh, I'm getting excited. I'm like, people, let's, let's make this thing a reality. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. So great. I think it was a great show, and this Teutonic Knight movie better come to life. So yeah, let's bring it to life, peeps.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, look, honestly, just from what has already been worked on, it could be an epic film.
And I would say as well, because we have started on it, and even though it's halted, it's if it does start up again, it's not going to take 4 years. That's the thing. It's not going to take a very long time.
You're taking the 4 years of learning from Land of Conflict, which is now you can just compress it, and and I guess as well, if you get better equipment, you can film more.
A better equipment makes things much more efficient, not just better quality.
Which means more films, just so the audience.
More films as well. This doesn't have to stop for you. It doesn't have to stop with this Teutonic Knight movie either. Yeah. Like it doesn't. This isn't. No. This isn't the finale. This is just. I guess you could say this is the next signpost. And so, right now I'm here at Land of Conflict, and Land of Conflict is our movie, or it's our intro. And so basically the rest is just up to the people who think whether it's worth it or not, to see more movies like that.
Very good. Well, Jude, I think we'll wrap it up there, but just again, for the audience, final wrap up, it's there on the screen, but specifically, how can people support your mission, which is to create those morally sound, meaningful films that are entertaining, but also educational and uplifting? How can they support your mission? In addition to that, in terms of next step, how can they also, by supporting your mission, it's going to bring about this next Teutonic Knight movie and other things. So how can people do that? How have people been supporting you so far?
Well, so far, I would say even At first, the first layer of support was just seeing the appreciation. So that's the first layer. That means that I know that somehow people, not somehow, I know that okay, people want it. So that's the first layer of support. If people didn't like it, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother even thinking about making more. So that's the first layer, and the next layer is so I would say that's the moral support. It's two things: moral support, financial support. You need both. If and the next layer is the financial support, and that is basically the money to basically bring these movies to life. And you can do that actually. There are multiple ways you could do that. Well, basically, if you go, you've got the blackcrossstudios.com there. That's just the link. That's the launch page of Land of Conflict. But the support options are also there. If you go to that, you scroll down. Actually, there should already be a button right on the top which says "See our support options" or something like that. It'll bring you down. There are a few different ways you could do it. But I will say a lot of people have kind of skipped the formalities, and they've kind of undercoverly said, "Hey, don't give me anything. Just take this." Because what we've done with Land of Conflict is the support options is that you can support us and get basically like cool products of Land of Conflict in return as well. And so you get like souvenirs almost and special content and multiple things. Just hop over there. You can see everything I've got. There's quite a few actually. But a lot of people have kind of I think a lot of people they think if they support, they're like, how much of my money is going to that? So they're like, just do it, and because basically all the funds we get go 100% towards. I don't keep it. I'm not buying a cool car or anything. 100% of the money goes to the next movie. And if we get more money than I wanted, then I'm just going to put more money into it to make it even better than it could be, because it can always be better. So if we get like lots of money, that just means the movie's going to be really good. And so basically, yeah, just hop over there to blackcrossstudios.com, check out our support options, and yeah, there's a lot.
And dude, if someone wants to contact you, what's your? I'll pull up on the screen. I'm going to put your. I think I've got your email address here. It's Jude at blackcrossstudios.com, isn't it?
Yes, that's.
So what I'll do as well, some people might want, just because you've got other people who have basically just contacted you directly and said, hey, I don't want anything back, just take this. I'm going to pop this on the screen as well. And then here we go. So if that's you, to the audience, if you're thinking as well, I don't want him to have to pay for the merchandise and stuff for the product like all the other people. I just want to support the next production. That's how you can contact Jude directly there. And you maybe just people can ask you questions. You know, I'm guessing as well, like people might say, look, maybe how much, like if I give this much, will this genuinely help? It might not be much, or it might be a lot, but will this actually help? And, you know, I'm sure you can have a conversation with Jude, and I'm sure that Jude would be very glad to answer any questions around that. Yeah, anything else you want to say in closing?
Well, I would just like to add, it's not just once you support us, I keep the money and go. It's not like I remember, like I know and exactly who supports me, and I always remember them. And because obviously they're in some way they're kind of part of the team, because they're actually doing the major essence of the movie. So I guess in some ways, like, it's not Black Cross Studios is here making a movie, but in some ways we're all making a movie. We're all doing this. So and I would also say, well, like you said earlier about if you want to contact me if you wanted to see alternative ways of support. We've had a good amount of support so far, and it's all alternative. Like nobody, everyone's kind of bypassing the other stuff so far. So I mean, I'm fine with that. Like I don't mind if people want to do that, if that's what they want to do.
I think it shows that they believe in what you're doing more.
Yeah,
they don't feel like they need the merchandise with it. They just feel like, dude, give me more of these films. What you're doing is amazing. I want to see more. I get it. I get that you need the support to do it. Otherwise, it just, without the cash, it's just not. You can't do much. I think it's just they understand it, so it makes sense.
So if you want to do that, go for it. If you're not even as interested in future productions, but you just want cool products, we have the stuff there as well. If you want if you want, yeah, just hop over to the website and see what we got there. There's some cool stuff. I mean, there is some cool stuff. I'm enjoying some of it myself, but so yeah, so there's as well as the financial support, also just sharing it to other people, spreading the word. That also helps as well, because the more people, the more potential people who want to see more, the more support. And in some ways, there's spreading over more people, so it's easier. But I will also just say anything helps. Like every little bit helps. And I'm not gonna begrudge, even like I'm not gonna unappreciate a small amount. You don't have to shell out all your life savings to see good movies. I will appreciate the smallest bit of support and make it put it to its best use as possible. That's the thing about homemade movies. You can stretch. You can make the smallest amount stretch too much. So I'm not saying, oh, cool, give me a buck. It's obviously, I will appreciate the smallest amount, but the fact still remains we do need substantial. But
I love it.
Just to the individual, it doesn't weigh on one person's shoulders. If everyone wants to see movies, then everyone who wants to, it shouldn't have to rely on, one person. Oh, this person's rich, he can do it. No, don't do that.
It's like the Catholic
Church.
The
rich person doesn't want it.
Donations, like even if you don't make much money, you donate a bit, and that's what makes it come to life as well. Well, Jude, thank you very much.
Expectations.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly. It's up to the audience at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Audience, if you really want it, it's really up to you. And Jude, he's got he's courting someone, and as someone who's married, I can tell you right now that as soon as you start getting married or considering that, you have to prioritize. And I'm just going to be direct for the audience. I'm just going to be super direct here because you're sort of packaging it, but you don't even know what the future's coming. If you don't get enough financial support, you're just going to go, all right, cool. This is the thing that I'd love to keep doing, but prudence dictates that I need to actually put a stop to it for a bit. So to the audience, that's what's going to happen because that's what happens when dudes get married. Just saying. Especially like Catholic guys who are probably going to have lots of kids. So if you do want to see more like this, you probably do have to financially support it. Otherwise, he's just going to have to make that logical decision. You won't say that yet, Jude, because you're not there in your part of your life yet. But as a married man who's also knows other married men, that is probably what's going to happen. So that's just
I think
reality there.
I think the person I'm quoting is actually watching this right now, and I think she would not appreciate as well if I'm ditching her just to make movies. Not that I'm doing that. So yeah.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Drew. We're just going to highlight a comment from Stephen Heiner, who said, "Awesome to hear about what you're doing. Come over to the Roman Catholic Media stream when you're done." So for the audience here, I love Stephen Heiner's Roman Catholic Media streams. They're fantastic. Not for Stephen Heiner, but for the clerics that he interviews. Sorry, Stephen, but I won't be able to attend because I'm very pious and I'll be going to Saturday Mass after this. So just showing off my piety there. Now, in all seriousness, I would be tuning into the stream otherwise. So yeah, definitely for the audience as well. There's a Roman Catholic Media stream. We're about to wrap up now. If you're still watching on your device, probably a good idea to go there because it's excellent content. All right. Thank you very much, Jude. And
thank you very much.
Thank you to the audience for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or watching this later. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much to everyone. Matt.